guys. I am your co-host, Daniel Sands, aka Parlay Lawyer. I'm joined here with Harambe Covers, David Turetsky. We got a great show for you guys. Our first ever guest. Very exciting. Very excited for you guys to hear Mike Fingado. Also, another special guest. We'll leave it as a surprise that comes in during that interview. A lot of interesting things he's doing with representing athletes. He's a sports agent, also has a lot of interesting tech companies, and he's providing a space for athletes to monetize after the game ends, which is something I also am passionate about. I think it's a great idea. I think you guys will enjoy this. But, of course, we're not going to leave you hanging, not talking about what just happened yesterday in March Madness with the girls and the guys. We will talk about a little futures, and let's get right into it.
Awesome. Well, what is up, brother? This is for Sketch, special teams, special podcast, special people, Tuesday. If you don't know,
I don't know.
You will see it all over.
Okay.
There's a guy, Sketch. He's like a gamer, and everyone now is this is the shtick.
This is it?
Yeah,
all
special team. You'll see.
Yeah.
I had to just give it a shout out. It's good. It's classic. But yes, March Madness is over. I am sad about that because I love March Madness. Everyone loves March Madness, especially if you're a degenerate like myself. You know, you love betting on the games, nonstop college basketball every day. But shout out to the UConn Huskies. Wearing this for my boys here, UConn. They are a wagon. They just killed it. And I mean, what can you say?
They beat everyone by double digits.
Unbelievable.
Okay. They covered every spread. They were unreal. I'm happy I went with my gut. I bet them to cover. Got some good advice from our friends that were there at the actual event. Shout out to Matt and Teo, our friends. They were there for the Final Four and the championship game. And Matt said, take the under. And man, was he right.
Wow.
I actually did not take the under at the beginning of the game. I was sweating out a parlay. It was starting not to look good on my third leg. I hit 2. I cashed that out. I threw it on the under at halftime. It was 140, and that was easy money. Very slow game, but UConn controlled it. Got in a little foul trouble with some of their big guys, but they were able to stop Edey. Edey missed some bunnies over some lower guys.
He still had over like 30 points.
He had over 30 points. He's a great player. I don't know how it's going to translate now. You know, I'll be interested to see what he does when his career ends in 2 years. But
that's horrible.
But somebody will take a shot on him for sure. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yep.
Where do you think he goes in the draft?
I don't know. Not high. I mean, someone will take a shot.
Do you think he's a first rounder? Do you think he's a second rounder?
Second round, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not really, you know, in college, you're playing against children, and it's I was even telling my brother when we were watching the game, it's the elite of the elite of the elite that make it to the NBA. And even with teams like UConn, who were wagons, like you said, beating teams by double digits, covering every spread. I mean, Vegas is so good at figuring out point differential. Like, I mean, I'd say 80%, you're just like, it's always to the last possession, right? And
they were bad this time.
But they can't figure them out. Yeah. Every time. It's like Hurley's like, oh, what's the spread? Oh, 6.5, we're going to double it. Oh, what's the spread? 11? Okay, we're going to put up 20. Like, they just kept doubling it, and they couldn't figure it out. So, but my point is with a team of that caliber, still maybe 2 of the guys are first rounders. The other one is maybe like a second rounder. Another maybe just Europe or undrafted. Mm-hmm. And there's that good, right? So, you know, where Edey falls, I don't know. Maybe, you know, maybe he goes first round to a team that wants the name, right? For just the publicity, because they're just going to take a shot on the kid because they know his work ethic, they know his drive, they know his game, they know how hard he pushes, they know what he can do. So maybe they take that shot. You know, where do you think he falls?
I don't know. I definitely, if he's a first rounder, it's the back half.
Right.
It's a center needy team. Now that I'm thinking of it, I'm just scared. I feel like the Knicks need another center. Isaiah Hartenstein's going to be gone. And I just really hope it doesn't happen. I don't think he's going to translate that well in the NBA. He's not athletic enough. He's a little too plodding. And being a 7-footer plus in college, whoa, look at this huge guy compared to these guys. But let's be honest, every single NBA team has a big body. Is he more of a Taco Fall or is he, Jokic? I don't think he's Jokic.
No.
He doesn't have that kind of skill set. He's going to have to develop a little bit of more of an outside shot. They'll be able to defend him in the NBA, but some team will take a shot on him. Worst case, he's like a mid-second rounder. I think he'll get minutes early on in his career. We'll see what happens. I think he's probably in Europe in no time or starting in the G League. So we'll see, but he's been an interesting story. 2-time college player of the year. And if you look at the list of people that have been 2-time college player of the year, it's like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Bill Walton.
He's around good company.
It's guys that are like no-brainer NBA legends, and then you have this guy that everyone's unsure about, but you never know. That's sports. We could be surprised, and he could carve out a great career.
And to the wagon of UConn, I just want to spit out some numbers that they did. 140-point differential, most ever in NCAA history, right? They were behind in a game for 6 minutes and 22 seconds total for the entire tournament. Not only did they cover the spread every time this tournament, they also did it last year too. They covered the spread. And they held Purdue, Edie and Fam, to season lows across the board. 60 points, season low. 8 assists, season low. And 1 3.
Yeah.
UConn clamped them down. And that, to your point, Edie's game might not translate to the NBA because the big men of UConn were able to handle that. And, you put Edie against Wembanyama or something, it's not going to happen.
They did need every big man because every single one was in foul trouble.
Right.
But they made it there to the end. At the end of the game, they went super small, and Edie was just backing down. And like I said, missed a bunch of layups. But at that time, the game was so out of
reach, yeah.
And UConn, UConn. One thing about Hurley, it just clearly shows he's such a good coach because these are young guys who are very often undisciplined, and they were very disciplined at the end of the game, slowing it down, taking every second that they could off of the shot clock. And like you said, the big difference of the game, that perimeter defense. Everyone's focused on Edie and stopping him. They let him get his 30 points, but they stopped the 3-ball.
Correct.
Castle locked them down. Newton locked them down. Spencer, great player. So he's a guy who, like, just watching his game for 5 seconds, you're thinking, I don't know if he's an NBA player, but he is so cerebral, was everywhere. I think he's actually going to be a really good NBA player. I think that's a guy that might not, I don't know where he's projected. I don't know if he's projected high, but he seems like a guy who could carve a place out on any team with how smart he plays. And yeah, just UConn all around. They were great.
So question, do they three-peat?
I have no idea. I don't know who they're.
I think they do.
Yeah, they did lose a lot of guys last year. Came back, restructured. They're, for a school that is good at no other sports, man, they just have a lock on basketball.
Yeah. No, I mean, they definitely do. I actually think they can three-peat. I was kind of looking just for fun at futures. They are, well, on ESPN Bet, they jumped to number 1 at plus 900. But I was looking on DraftKings, they are plus 1,400, where Duke is number 1 at plus 1,000. So they're definitely there. So, even Vegas thinks that Hurley will recruit, will bring in guys, the program will rebuild, and they'll be there again. And honestly, I mean, why not? Go for the three-peat. Let's make some history.
So are you taking a futures bet now on them before the line moves?
I don't think it's going to flutter much. Well, I guess once they start picking up their recruits and stuff, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just sprinkle a little something.
A
little sprinkle on something. Now, staying with UConn here before we go to women's basketball, I saw a little thread. UConn versus the Washington Wizards. Now, they threw out a 32-point spread. Do you think they cover?
No.
I think they do.
So I think the NBA, it's just, there's just so much more talent. Jordan, for instance, a guy like Jordan Poole, who is probably my least favorite basketball player to watch. He is so frustrating. betting his props.
Yes.
But that is a guy against like a college team that he scores 100. Like they're not stopping him. He's driving every time. You know, even in yesterday's game, there was one play from a Purdue player, Heine, something like that. That was just this athletic, like Marvel play where he gets a putback, gets his head at the rim. But every NBA guy can make that play.
That's true.
And there's maybe one guy on your team in college that can make that play. I think, you know, it's a fun thing to talk about. Could they go ahead? You know, Alabama, they always said with all the NFL players coming from there, could they do in the NFL? Remember, every guy on that NBA team was by far the best player on their college team. I don't think they cover 30 points, but you know, maybe they slow the game down. It's just such a different game in the NBA. They're so athletic.
Yeah. The only reason, and it's
They're grown men.
Yeah, right. And that, I was kind of going to say with football, it translates a little differently because in the NBA we've seen a lot of one and done. These guys are young when they do come in, so the age difference and whatever is not as much in college football. They're much more mature in the muscle mass and the size and the speed. Like, so it's a little harder. In basketball, I think it would be a lot closer than a football, like Alabama versus whoever's the worst team in the NFL the year previous. But, you know, I just want to live my dream and pretend. But you make a good point. I mean, you're probably
Let's
right.
start with seeing them go against like a European professional
Fair
team,
enough.
right? Let's see how they do against that, and then let's move to the NBA. Let's throw some respect on the Washington Wizards Bullets. On the Bullets. They look, you know, they're terrible, but they're terrible against other NBA teams.
Right.
I think they would win every game by 50 in March Madness. So it's fun to talk about, but I don't see it.
Fair enough. Now, we also had some women's college basketball. Can't forget the biggest spectacle of probably all of women's sports ever nationally, and the notoriety and the noise that it was getting. Miss Caitlin Clark, and she played UConn in that Final Four game, and then unfortunately she fell to the unstoppable Miss Staley and her Gamecocks at USC. You know, they went undefeated. They're just they're like a UConn, just a wagon, just a great women's college
that
basketball.
Nobody was talking about because everyone was talking about Caitlin Clark.
Which brings me to a point. Now, I made a post about the UConn call, and we talked about calls in the past, with like the block and March Madness and things. And I had a lot of haters. Now, to them, my point is this. Caitlin Clark did me over when I bet against her against LSU because I thought LSU was a team and the team would just devour that one star, kind of like UConn devouring Edie. Didn't happen. Then they play UConn. At the end of that UConn Iowa game, there was an offensive foul call. I said in my video, which is probably what stirred people, clearly not a foul. It was a foul. Okay. My mistake saying clearly not a foul. But with 9 seconds left in the game, down 1, in my opinion, the ref shouldn't make a ticky-tack call like that and let UConn have the shot. Now, you're going to get naysayers in certain things. I want to hear what your opinion is. Should the ref call the foul or not? Because in my opinion, and I'll stand to this, had it been the other way around and it, like Iowa was down 1, I can guarantee that Iowa would not have got the offensive call because the NCAA and the Women's March Madness wanted to give Caitlin Clark that shot to win the game. Now, granted, UConn still had to make the shot. But if it was flipped, the teams were flipped, Iowa doesn't get the offensive foul called on them, but UConn did to seal the deal for Caitlin Clark.
Listen, I wanted it to happen because I wanted Caitlin Clark in one more game. It was the reason I was watching.
Right.
And shouts to Caitlin Clark, who now, at her prime of her powers is stepping out of the spotlight and going to the WNBA.
Indiana Fever.
She's going to the WNBA where no one's going to even care anymore. No, all jokes aside, look, in any sport, you don't want ticky-tack calls. At the end, you want to see them play.
Right.
Right? Do I think that Iowa would have gotten the same call? I don't know. You want to hope so. I don't think the refs have an agenda. unless they're Donahue and they're betting on the games. But I think mostly they were looking for a foul in
An
that
opportunity.
situation.
Yeah.
And the refs always are, because they're they like the spotlight too. I was watching the game last night in UConn and Purdue, and there was like this random moment where the ref was high stepping. Did you see this? Running down the court. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
why are you running like this?
Even Hurley wanted his spotlight.
Yeah.
He ran on the court.
Right. Shouts to Joey Crawford back in the day with the NBA, who would do crazy crap like that all the time. You know, these refs are human too, and sometimes the game gets the better of them and they want to make it about themselves. I didn't like the call personally, just because I wanted to see them actually play. It was a bailout, and it sucks for UConn, but UConn's happy right now. How many? What, they got to win every single championship?
Well, no, they don't. I mean, they're a great program, like you said earlier, but it gave an opportunity for Miss Diana Taurasi to chime in, and I think she's trying to get back in the spotlight on Caitlin Clark. She goes, well, just you wait. She made a quote saying, like, just you wait. Now you're going to play with women, not little girls. So I think, like, Taurasi's trying to get, like, her name, like, for endorsements, and just, there's going to be this, like, Caitlin Clark, Diana Taurasi beef in the WNBA, and they're going to try to, like, pump that up, because previous to Caitlin Clark, I think Taurasi was, like, our spotlight women's basketball player growing up that people...
Is she still in the WNBA?
I believe so. I think so. I think she's in, like, Phoenix.
Either way, she's proven it. I do agree. At the end of the day, you know, come into the NBA, come into the WNBA, and prove you're something outside of college.
Right.
How many of these great college players in every sport, you know, are just awesome, and we're saying they're the best ever, and they get to play with grown adults, and they don't have it. So let's see. She was terrible in that game. She's chucking up shots left and right.
She was. In the last, like, 4 minutes, didn't do anything.
And look, in a professional organization, are they even going to let her play like that? So we'll see what kind of player she is. I'm happy to not talk about women's sports anymore. No offense to the women.
And she also did the bettors wrong. They were up 2 and just bounced it off when she could just inbound it and let the foul. It was 2.5 spread.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of hate on Caitlin Clark going around the board. The previous all-time women's college point scorer, Wooden, came out during like a women's conference during the Final Four and said, I'm still the leading scorer. And I thought you brought up a good point, which was, talk to me when you use a man's ball, which is what they used to use in women's college, and there's no 3-point line.
Wow.
So the record she broke was someone who could not shoot threes because there was no 3-point line, and was using a man's ball, which, look, simple logic, bigger ball, harder to get it into a small basket than a smaller ball. So I don't disagree.
I did not know that, and that's a very fun fact. That just fuels my, like, Caitlin Clark, like, hey, I don't know. I don't hate her. I don't know. I'm just over it. Like you said, I'm just happy to not be talking about this anymore.
Yeah, but it was exciting, and congrats to women's sports for getting the spotlight.
Now,
equality.
Yes. Now, March Madness, a great event. Do you think it is the best event of the year in sports to, like, get excited for? Or you're more Super Bowl, NBA playoffs? Like, what's your favorite event?
I'm more Super Bowl and NBA playoffs, but for betting, March Madness is the most fun. You're betting on every game. You're betting on teams that you would normally not care about. Whereas, NBA, I'm more vested in. NFL, it's a long season of knowing everything going on. Super Bowl, though, there's nothing like the Super Bowl. That's just this event that is just exciting. People get together for barbecues. They throw Super Bowl parties. But there's a lot of great events. Like, I might be in the minority, but I'm really looking forward to the Masters this week.
Okay.
There's nothing like during a work day, you're on your computer, background, you got Thursday, Friday golf going on. That's on my bucket list of events to go to. But yeah, March Madness was great. I'll miss this time. It's always an exciting time of the year and always a lot of sports to bet on, to talk about. But yeah, now we're kind of getting into the dog days. So what do we have? We have Masters, which I think is exciting this week.
Does Tiger make the cut?
Tiger makes the cut.
It's minus 120. We can place it right now.
Tiger has not had sex in a week. Okay? And in his prime, that nerd was not having any sex.
He's fueled.
It was once he started having sex that all the problems started. So
You were talking about big balls earlier. They're ready.
well, now they're full.
They're full.
And he's ready. I heard he had a great practice round. We'll see. There's nothing like watching Tiger Woods when he's being competitive. I'm hopeful that he is. The Masters at Augusta, you always see experience win out there. So I do think that, like, is he going to win? 99% no. But if he makes the cut and he's in the top 15 going into Sunday and we get that red Tiger shirt, woo, bring me back to let's party like it's 2002.
Juicing me up.
Yeah, let's party like it's 2002. But actually, not too long ago, I think it was 2019
Yeah.
or 18, he won. You know, it's not too far back, and you never know. We've seen, I think it was Tom Watson, like late in his career, get close to winning the Masters, and you just never know. But that's what's exciting about it. And like, look at that, Tiger Woods being involved. Will he? Now we're saying, is he going to win? Will he make the cut? So everyone's going to be watching Thursday, Friday. Tiger Woods featured group. Is he going to?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Are you going to take it? He'll make the cut. I mean, I'll take it if you take it.
I'll take it right now.
Take it right now. Let's go.
Let's go. Get on the.
We're going to take it right now.
Get on the
That he'll
Rock
make
app.
Hard Rock app. Shout out to the Hard Rock app. We're going to do it live. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm just going to dabble.
Let's see how quickly we can do this too.
I can do it very quickly because I did it earlier.
Masters.
There's a Tiger special. There it is. Will he make the cut? Yes.
Oh, they have it as a booster?
Is it? No.
Oh, that's
no.
Tiger.
So go into search and then hit type Masters,
Yeah.
and then you'll get Masters 2024. There we go. Tiger will make the cut. I placed it, folks.
Is it specials?
Tiger specials. Do you see Tiger specials?
They have a Tiger specials?
Mm-hmm. Give me. I'll do it for you.
Thank you. throw 100. Throw one unit.
Wow. Okay, let's do Masters. All right, there you go. You got your Tiger made the cut in for a unit.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Thanks for the tip. Bet responsibly. If you need good sports betting tips, always go to Winnable.
Yes,
There's
sir.
tons of good cappers on there. And yeah, bet responsibly. And you know what? Let's bring in that guest, talk about a little sports business as well on this podcast. Let's get him on.
We have a special guest today, Mr. Mike Fingado, an NFL agent, former collegiate athlete at FSU, and an athlete business manager. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
So, Mike, I know you did track at Florida State. Now you live in Montana, as you can see here. This beautiful background looks like a lovely home. Definitely wish I was there.
You guys you're more than welcome to visit. Sarah Chalet,
I have to.
is what we call it. So.
Awesome. And you run a company called Athletepreneur, right?
Yep. Athletepreneur, and then we also have a company called Athlete Plus. Athletepreneur is the sports agency side of things, and Athlete Plus is a banking app for athletes, both pro and collegiate.
So can you tell us a little more about the I'm interested in the banking one, definitely. That one kind of shit.
Yeah. So a little bit of background. Brian and I both ran track at Florida State. Brian ended up being a two-time Olympic athlete. I ended up getting injured my sophomore year and started my first tech company and was fortunate enough to sell it, move to San Francisco, and fast forward, had a career at a number of startups and at Amazon. But about 2 years ago, I reached back out to Brian and said, hey, I want to solve a problem. He's like, what problem do you want to solve? And I was like, a lot of these kids are starting to make money with NIL, but none of them are getting financial wellness or literacy. What do you think of the concept of building what USA's built for military and their families for the same thing for athletes and their fans? And given he worked at Deloitte and Bernstein and some other finance companies, he's like, actually, that's a great idea. I got a guy we should talk to at Visa. So we talked to a guy at Visa that used to run professional track with him. And ultimately landed on the idea of building basically a neobank for athletes and a basically fundraising mechanism for fans. So basically that's how we came about it. Yeah. I can tell you more like what it is per se, but
so how does that work? Fundraising for fans. What's that?
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are kind of actually the first ones we've told about this. But are you familiar with are you familiar with Acorns?
Absolutely.
How you can spend money, and as you spend, it rounds up, and you can have fractional shares in stocks or your savings accounts. We do the same thing for athletic boosters and collectives. So as fans of college sport, go spend money, get their coffee, whatever it may be. We'll use Starbucks for example. Every time I go get coffee, rounds up to the nearest dollar. We'll say 50 cents. Starbucks can match that 50 cents. It becomes $1. So every time I drink coffee, $1 goes to my favorite sports team, or directly to a specific athlete. So at UCF, if I want to give $1 every time I drink coffee to the quarterback or somebody on the basketball team, I can in a compliant way, basically just by your current spending habits. So
that's
whether you go to Target, yeah.
You're basically a booster.
Yep.
You're a fan crowdfunded booster. And that's a really interesting idea. So also you mentioned athletepreneur. So what is the focus of this agency and what are you guys trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so for about 10 years, we've been more of a consulting agency helping pro athletes transitioning from sport to tech or investments. Mm-hmm. And last year, I got certified as an NFL agent last October, and we had enough athletes that were like, hey, you're helping us with finances, you're helping us with transitioning out of sport. Can you help the younger guys that want to make it to the league? And we kept saying, no, but I'll kick you over to Rock Nation. I'll kick you over to Athletes First. Did that enough times to where I was like, you know what? We probably should just launch an agency as well. So we're focused on NFL athletes and Olympic athletes, given Brian's a two-time Olympic athlete. If you ever get a chance to look it up, he's a 5'5" guy running it next to Usain Bolt when he breaks the world record.
Wow.
In Beijing. So anyways,
as a 5'6" guy that used to be very fast in my younger days, I can appreciate that. And when I tell everyone I'm telling you I ran a 4.5, they're like, no way. But you know what? We exist. And Mike is thank you for the PSA, because I need that. I'm going to keep.
Now I have to believe him. Thanks.
So Mike, what I find really interesting, because I co-founded a company that has a lot of former athletes on it, monetizing their influence as athletes in the sports betting space.
Nice.
And this is a somewhat sports betting focused podcast. Have you seen that sort of transition from with your clients going into that sort of influence space, dealing with sports gambling, which is now permeating pretty heavily throughout all sports leagues? And if not, or if so, what are your thoughts about that and former athletes getting involved in that space?
Definitely a fan of it from a former athlete perspective. And as you probably know, the NFL at least has one stadium that you can gamble in.
Yeah.
And the PA actually has negotiated that part of the rev share for gambling, at least at the NFL, gets shared with the players. So that's in the current collective bargaining agreement. I love the idea of athletes getting involved in that regard. Current athletes, not so much, especially at the college level, but that's a totally side caveat.
Yeah.
There's just too much going on there with NIL and just influence there, generally speaking. But no, I love the concept of former athletes getting involved with sports betting. I've seen live streams of some athletes, doing parlays and stuff and having fans kind of join them in on that, which is a really cool concept. I think so as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about what you felt as well, but it seems like a cool concept.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you maybe off the podcast sometime.
Yeah.
How we could get those athletes on there, but I think you're touching on something and that we think of at our company as well, which is once you leave the game, the game hasn't necessarily left you, and all that influence and those fans are still there, and figuring out a way to transition into being an entrepreneur, which is, I love the name of your company.
Thank you.
That's a, it's a scary position to be in without any guidance and without seeing, what people are doing. What is the world for me now that the game has stopped, right? And I'm not focusing on my body every day, but I still want to make the kind of money that I was making when I was a pro athlete, right? So it's a lot of, I think it's great what you're doing for these athletes, and I'd love to talk to you about that more some other time. So who are some of the athletes right now that you're working with and that you're, excited about, and what are some of the cool things they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we have two things. We have an investment syndicate that we invest in startups on the Athletepreneur site. You can join the syndicate. It's just through AngelList. I've invested in betting apps. I've invested in some other fintech companies. Overtime is a sports league on the basketball and football side that I've invested in. So we help athletes, one, with deal flow. And then two, the other part, if they happen to have their own business, we can definitely help them with that as well. Typically, it's tech focused. My kind of product and business development roles at Amazon kind of lead into that, which is helpful. And then fintech is our main focus too, given Brian's expertise on the finance side. Today, I mean, I like product. So if you can show and tell me something, that's what gets me excited and what we like helping on. What we don't touch is like franchises and stuff like that. Like we want to focus on kind of the tech components. But we're kind of agnostic in regards to where it can apply. So sports betting would be one. I won't mention the betting company that I invested in, but there is one. So I am familiar with that space as well. And yeah, we can help athletes from day one, building their MVP, all the way to launching and scaling. And perhaps if they want other athletes to be involved and using their influence to grow their product or service, that's what we're all about.
Awesome. Now, one of the leagues that you angel invested in was Overtime, right? That basketball league.
Yep, basketball, and now they're getting into football as well.
Are they now? That's awesome. I saw like a documentary on maybe Amazon or something like that about Overtime. Find it very interesting. Do you find that a lot of players or kids, right? They're kids, will go transition more to Overtime and then jump into the NBA versus,
Yeah, it's a great question. So Overtime kind of launched like right around when NIL was becoming a thing.
Right.
So you have to remember these kids weren't getting paid yet. And Overtime was this new concept where it's like they raised a bunch of money and said, we're going to give all these athletes at least $100,000 to go straight from high school to college. They can defer their education and go to school if they want to, but we're going to create this whole media empire and league, which Amazon is a partner with. And that's probably where you saw the documentary and where it's televised. I think the one and done kind of approach to basketball, where you only have to have 1 year of eligibility outside of high school and then you can go pro, is not that helpful. But you'll see kids staying more and more because of NIL money. Mm-hmm. And I think they can honestly make more money even going at a large college versus Overtime, which Overtime is a great medium for those that don't want to go to college and want to continue to be playing with the elite guys that perhaps don't want to go over to Europe to do so. So I think it's definitely a great transition program for them, an alternative to the G League in a lot of ways. And there was a couple guys drafted in the top 15 that came out of Overtime last year. So they proved that model out too. But I personally am biased towards going to school and getting your education as well, which aligns well with Athletepreneur, because you can go pro in a sport, but as you mentioned, you don't know how long that's going to last. So getting that education is definitely helpful.
No, you're definitely.
Although you can always go back to school too.
You're definitely playing both ends of it, which is good for you. And we alluded to that actually in a previous podcast, saying the NBA especially is such a hard league to make it in, and because of that, a lot of these kids are going to stay. Because Dan said last episode, I believe, like these NIL deals, why would they want to leave? Especially if they go to these big programs, they're making money and they're just getting a little bit more mature, a little bit stronger, faster, and then they'll pivot their way into the league if they can make it there.
Yeah, the one opportunity I would say is NIL. You can't get paid as you're an international athlete in its current rules.
Okay.
So I think a lot of these international athletes, doing, playing in Europe or doing Overtime is still beneficial. Hopefully someday they change the rules, and I know because I've talked to some colleges, like hush hush, that they are still paying international athletes, but And, all these rules are going to be broken. And the NCAA, I don't even know if you guys saw yesterday, there's a group trying to basically take the top, I think, 70 best football teams and basically create a league, from that and break them off the universities and have a way for them to be, was it relegated like soccer does, where you can get up and basically join and do the rev share based off that. So the NCAA and what's happening right now is just the Wild West. It's kind of exciting, but it's also, it's going to blow up the whole system. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, and it was so many years where that O'Bannon case was going on, where they were fighting for this, and the NCAA was, keeping it very resistant to it, but not making any plans on what to actually do if they lost this case and these college athletes would get paid. And it's like you said, it's a wild West. It's really interesting. We're learning as we go what's actually working, what's happening. And as David was alluding to, even just seeing last night, Zach Edey in that game, this was a guy who's won the National Player of the Year 2 years in a row. But at the beginning of his college journey, you didn't necessarily see this happening, but he always had the size. And perhaps before this NIL situation, he would have gone pro, got drafted somewhere in the second round, maybe had a career, maybe he wouldn't end up in Europe. But now he spent all these years getting NIL money, improved his draft stock, most likely. Some team will take a shot on him. But, that opportunity to grow as a human being, learn, and become a professional is being created by not only the NIL, but I think companies like yours that are coming in and allowing advisors to actually provide influence from professionals that have been through it, where previously people like you had to stay out on the wings and just wait and then rush to this guy and say, hey, look at me. And I think it's bringing back agencies that are providing proper advice and proper partnership, as opposed to just being like, not to say anything bad about, what was the company, Rocka, Jay-Z's company, right? Where like Rock Nation, where essentially you're looking at the shiniest object as opposed to maybe who's going to be your best advisor. So I think it's an exciting space, and it's only good things to come as people figure out how to manage it.
Absolutely. Yeah, to your point, people are really teams way earlier. I'm talking to kids in high school that are literally like, hey, do I need a PR person? Do I need an agent? Do I need so-and-so? And parents that are like, hey, how do I negotiate my kids? Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Guess.
What's the
Second guess.
Finnegan is his name.
Finnegan. Okay.
Wow. Very original. Oh, very original.
No, but, Dan brings up a good point. The NCAA with the NIL and allowing these agencies to kind of talk to the kids earlier, there is huge benefit. I know some people really don't like it. These kids shouldn't be getting paid or whatever, but it allows people to guide them. Because remember, they're 18 years old, and they'll make dumb decisions. We all were in college one day. We all have a story to tell, right?
Make dumb decisions at 36.
But, it definitely provides guidance, and that's definitely key. And, before we let you go, because we don't want to hold you up too much, of course, how was your March Madness bracket?
Yeah, I had North Carolina State because I just went with having been a Florida State guy. I always end up just rooting for whoever won the ACC conference championship. So
that wasn't bad.
So it wasn't a bad pick, and it worked out. Yeah.
And let's think some futures here. Do you watch obviously you watch basketball. Who do you like in the NBA this year for the finals?
For the finals, I'm not sure, but I grew up in Detroit, and it's
not going to be the Pistons.
They're not good. They're not good. They're not good. I can tell you that. But yeah, I was at the lottery draft or the lottery pick, and when Ben Wallace saw that he didn't get like a top 2 or 3 pick, he was so mad. But they're not going to be good anytime soon. I mean, I'm a Golden State fan as well, just because I lived in San Francisco for a bit. So I maybe Golden State, but they're good. All these teams are getting old. I'm kind of ready for the new age class to come through.
It's true.
And obviously LeBron's son, I mean, he's declaring for the draft and kind of perhaps transferring in college. It'd be cool to see them play together wherever that ends up.
So do you think that's an interesting one. Yeah. He obviously makes a lot of NIL money. Money for him is probably not too important when your father's a billionaire. But do you think that he actually will go to the NBA, or do you think that this is because doesn't he still have eligibility? He can still go back?
He's protecting his eligibility, so technically he could go back if he doesn't think he'll be, a great pick or land in the hands of his dad's team. We'll see. I mean, I think he tries. I think he'll end up in college again, quite honestly. But I think he'll stay in California.
So Mike, you're the agent. You're his agent right now. What do you think Bronny should do? What would you be advising him?
I would advise him to spend one more year in college, continue to develop, take that NIL money, invest it in cool startups, and then from there, figure out where he wants to, where he can be drafted. Because I mean, he doesn't want to get stuck to the G League. You know what I mean? Like, even though he's LeBron James' son, you don't want to get drafted and then have to not be on a team or squad. He'll sell a lot of jerseys regardless, but he needs to develop a little bit more, and I think he's got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah,
and to your point, these kids are still kids,
right?
So,
and Mike and Bronny, just so you don't get the wrong impression here, Mike is saying not a Blaze Pizza franchise. Tech, go to Tech.
Yeah. 100% tech, whether it's in fintech, betting tech, whatever it may be. Something in tech for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, not Space Jam 3.
Yeah, definitely not.
Well, awesome. It was a pleasure having you. We'll definitely be talking to you off the podcast here. And thanks for coming by.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on Big Ol' Ox.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mike. Wow, thanks, Mike, for coming on. It was nice to have a guest. We should do that more often. We're going to have some cappers on. We're going to talk about sports business, gambling, current events, all of that. This was a great show. Thanks for joining me once again. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, like, comment. We'll answer back, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, folks. Bye-bye.